on today's episode, I am so excited to dive into this topic because we had this there was this episode that we did a couple weeks ago that was all about hormones and just ages and shifting and getting used to my body in a new way. And I have had so many beautiful conversations come out of that podcast episode, which literally lights me up. Like this is the reason why we have changed the channel Conversations, because sometimes it's so hard to even know that there's a channel that needs to be changed until, I don't know, until someone else shares a little bit about themselves, then like, oh, okay. I've heard it said before, sharing something about yourself gives other people the gift of going second. So it's this moment of being vulnerable, I guess, and that really is the point of this podcast, is to essentially start a conversation, start a ball rolling, and then feel free to grab that ball and let it just keep rumbling around in you, almost like a pinball machine. Let it hit different spaces, let things come to the surface, and then let's talk about that. So basically what has been coming out of this episode is conversations primarily with women right now about how so many of us were on birth control from early years, in our teens, and now are coming into our 30s or maybe 40s and literally have never spent any time understanding, how the hell do I talk to my body or listen to my body? Basically, and this is not a podcast to shame medication or whatever, but I do believe that so many of symptoms that we feel are actually our body's way of trying to communicate with us. And we've just translated them into being some kind of a problem that needs to be solved and resolved. We take a pill, it turns down the noise of whatever's going on, but it does not allow us to create a relationship of trust and reciprocity and listening. And so what ends up happening, I think, is our body over time is like, hey, I had a thing I was trying to tell you, and I was trying to tell you in a whisper. I was trying to ask you nicely, and you're not hearing me. And so kind of like a kid in the backseat of a car that wants something, their voice starts low and then it just starts to amp up. And the next thing you know, you really you have a whole situation on your hands. And what I'm learning from these conversations with women is they're coming to me and they're like, I really admire how in your body you are. You seem really confident in your skin and in your body. And I don't know how to even begin to start listening to my body. I feel very, very disconnected. And so first off, if this is you, if you're like, God, if one more person tells me to listen to my body, or what is your body saying, or take a deep breath, and you're just sitting there like, what am I listening for? What is the point of this? How will I know if I'm listening? And again, I think sometimes because our culture in the West is so disconnected from our bodies, it can feel like, well, what's the point of this? I don't get it. And it can feel really awkward. So if that's you, and you literally, would rather put a pencil in your eye pretty much than hear anyone else tell you to live an embodied life again, hang out, because this podcast is for you. We're gonna break it down to basically, I'm just gonna tell you kind of what I do when I'm working with my clients. And so many of the clients that I work with that I love are asking these same questions. How do I listen to my body? What does listening to my body mean? Is it the same for every person? Or, can our bodies talk to us in different ways? And how do I know how to listen to mine? So basically, I'm gonna run us through a process. And uh, I love acronyms. I love using wordplay. I think it's so helpful when you're in the middle of feeling something, to not have to work so hard to think about whatever the way out of that or way through that is. So I like to make things easy and measurable. And basically, this process is called the stuck method. And the stuck method, you will know you need the stuck method because you feel stuck. Like, you feel overwhelmed, your body feels flooded, you're all of a sudden, you know that you deserve that promotion at work, and every time you go to try to tell the powers at be at your work about it, you find your body freeze, or you get that like lump in your throat, or and so you've been at the same salary for however long, and it doesn't matter that it's impacting your life. Maybe your bills are mounting and you're so frustrated, but it's that feeling of whenever you get to that moment of conversation where your life could move in a different direction, your body overrides and says, this isn't safe, and shuts the whole thing down. Does that sound familiar? Or maybe the thing that you want more than anything is love, and you're, trying to go on dates, or you're trying to, engage in messages, and it's almost like you go to say things and you second guess everything that you're saying, and then it just comes out sideways, and you're like, I'm so stuck. Why is this not working? Why is it not happening? Or a new one for me that I'm going to actually start engaging with is, how can I reframe my relationship with working out? I love to be active. I love to move, but now whenever my body gets ready to start moving, there's a new layer of fear that shows up. And even when I'm dancing or trying to be in motion lately, my body sends me these signals that says, don't do that. It's not safe. There's too many feelings under here. And don't let those out. And so I feel this visceral feeling of being stuck. And that shows up as me saying, I'll deal with this tomorrow. Procrastination is actually, it's the freeze method, or the freeze part of your nervous system. It's not that you're lazy, it's that your body is sending signals of fear. And so oftentimes you just shut down. And so the gym for me is something that I'm working my way back to, because I want to have a healthy relationship with exercise outside of a lot of the body dysmorphia that I grew up with. And so all that to say, I hear you. And these are just a sampling and spattering of different ways that you'll know that the stuck method and trying to connect with your body this way could be supportive. So what is the stuck method? It spells out STUCK. And the first one, S, stuck, is the sensations. Noticing the sensations that your body is having without judgment. So this is simply being with the sensation and not assigning any value to it. So for example, for me, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a gym membership. I'm going to start going more regularly. Even as I'm saying it, I can feel this wave of heat coming from the back of my neck up and over the top of my head. I can feel my throat starting to close as I'm talking about it. I can feel my chest starting to kind of concave inward. I can feel, my back is it's trying to coil in. And this is so interesting, right? And there are two ways that I can navigate or be with this, right? And the first one is kind of what we're told so often. And a channel that I deeply believe needs to be changed is when our body is giving us sensations. It's like, shut that shit down. What does it need? How can I move beyond the discomfort of what this is into something better, step into something better? And what I'm going to encourage you to do is you're reimagining and starting to heal this relationship with listening to your body. Step one is that there needs to be some resiliency within the discomfort. The discomfort needs to be able to stay even 30 seconds to a minute longer than you would usually want to. And it's in that little bit of time that you show your body, I'm in this with you. Like, I'm holding your hand. I'm not assigning the value of you being a problem. I'm connecting with you. I'm deeply listening. And so how I would do that is I would be like, okay, inventory. Wow, my head is spinning. How fascinating. Huh. The feeling of spinning is so interesting. Oh yeah, my jaw is feeling a little bit closed. Okay, there's some tension there. Interesting. Tension is not always bad. Tension gets a bad rap, I think, because it creates a lot of sensation. But tension, for example, when you do a bicep curl, it's bringing the muscles close, like it's shortening the muscle, right? It's like it's bringing it all in. And how beautiful is it that our bodies offer us the opportunity to both bring things in and let things out, even within the muscle structure. So as I'm talking about it, just letting it kind of be with it. Okay, I'm feeling some like running down sort of the back of my neck. Oh, this is so interesting. My neck has been feeling a little bit, my shoulders have been wanting to be like earrings a little bit for the last week. So I've been moving through some tense situations. Wow, that's interesting that as I'm bringing up the gym, I'm noticing my shoulders are kind of coming up. How fascinating. We begin to allow the sensations to be your muse. Become like deeply, passionately curious about what am I feeling? What is that? And instead of allowing that to be a springboard to, I feel something, therefore it's a problem, it's a neutral thing of I simply feel something. That's the first step of the stuck method. And honestly, that is a lot of the reason why clients come to me, is because the sensations are overwhelming for them to be with themselves. And so we get to do a lot of healing the nervous system and just allowing you to reconnect to your body in a way that's not scary. But I also believe in your resiliency and your power. So if you're in your house and you're starting to feel this stuff, you can follow this method as well and try it out. Okay, so we've got the S sensations. Sit with them, study them, engage with them, do it all as if you're just gathering data, not assigning value. The T is translate. So now you're like, okay, I have all this data. Okay, neck, head, shoulders, jaw, eyes, stomach, back. Cool. Oh, how fascinating that I never thought about my feet or my legs. Right now, I'm noticing that even as I'm saying this out loud to you, I felt my feet do this little bit of a jump sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's sensation down there. That's my feet being like, hey, I don't know if you caught me in the whole body scan. I think maybe you missed that part. And just like humans that don't like to be left out, I believe the body parts don't necessarily like to be left out either. So in a way of, in this moment, reframing and also reconnecting and establishing trust with my body, I might grab my foot, put my hand on it and say, thank you so much for telling me. You're right. I did forget to mention you in this, and you're so valuable. You're so important. Put your hand, literally hand a different body part on to this foot and be like, you belong. Because the fact of the matter is, as we're now in the T of stuck method, translate can often be, what is the emotion that's attached to this? And right now, my foot is allowing me to offload some of these fears of not belonging. And that shows up all over in my life. Like, for example, with this gym analogy, like if I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been to the gym in a while, I feel uncomfortable in my body, I don't look like, I don't look like I did when I was in high school weight training all the time, or, in my early 20s. Can we also talk about how ridiculous it is that, okay, not ridiculous, we're going to be kind, but how unbelievably unkind it is to me, to myself, what I'm doing to myself when I say, you need to be the same that you were when you were like, I don't know, 16, 17, 22, whatever. Why can't my 41-year-old body go to the gym also in whatever shape she is? Why have we decided that the gym is only for people that are, quote, in shape, when really it's a place that we go to get, to find a shape, right? And maybe to even have these new dialogues with our bodies. So my foot was telling me, as I tapped into it and I was trying to translate these sensations, was like, okay, tell me what it is that you want to tell me, as I put my hand on there. And my foot just said, is this beautiful download. It was like, okay, you're still healing through some stuff about belonging. Cool. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for allowing me to notice. And as I say that, I'm feeling this flush up into my cheeks. It's going up my neck and to the top of my head. And I can just take a couple deep breaths with it and be like, okay, so belonging is still a thing that gets some of my attention. I get to lovingly be with my body about this topic. And then, yeah, so that's what the translation is. So once you've got some of these sensations, and it's going to feel very much like you're going to want to switch into the left brain. You want the left brain to be like, okay, how do I do this right? The way you do this right is by being patient and kind with your body. Put your hand on whatever space is feeling tight and say, take a couple deep breaths and say, what do you have to share with me? And close your eyes, and I want you to imagine that you're talking to maybe a 4-year-old or 8-year-old version of yourself. How would you speak to that person when you're wanting them to tell their story to you, right? And that's what this translation is. We're translating it from like raw data into, okay, this is the meaning that you're making of this right now. We're not making it a fact. We're also not making it a problem. We're just saying, okay, like these are some areas of growth. And I'm so grateful that my body's keeping track of that, because Lord knows my mind is thinking of a million things all the time during the day. So because I really believe that our bodies want us to be in the most balanced, healthy, whole, healed way, they're going to keep inviting us into these initiations. And that's what the T and translating in the stuck method is. The next one is you understanding the implications of this, right? So I can be like, okay, I'm working through belonging. Now, let me understand where some of this is coming from. Oh yeah. I remember the way that, the way that maybe I was talked to by a past partner about my body, or the fear, like maybe I've gone to the gym before with someone, and maybe I had a great relationship with them for a while, and then all of a sudden something severed, and now I associate the gym with this person, and this person, because they're no longer part of my life, is feeling like, is making my body be afraid of not belonging, right? So I don't know if this makes sense, if this analogy is working, or me working on myself as I'm sharing with you, but yeah, it's the understanding, where does this come from? Like, and a lot of times what you can do is put your hand on your heart and a hand on your belly and just breathe into it and say, close your eyes. And take maybe 3 deep breaths and say, when was the first time I felt this? And say, body, I trust you to bring up or to share with me what it is that I need to know about this. And as you breathe and as your right brain, the creative brain, comes online, you will be absolutely amazed at what your body starts to tell you. And it can be so emotional, right? Emotion, like the grief that comes up when you're like, God, how long has that been there? Like when you start to have compassion and realize your body's been holding on to that emotion for so long, like it stops making it, or it starts making it make sense, where you're like, you know what, maybe this is why I didn't run out to the gym and do this, because I'm still grieving, or I ignored and shoved away the grief about that past relationship that I now associate with the gym. Like, because the thing of it is when stuff gets in sort of the right brain, it's the creative side. And I really believe that it doesn't have to have a logical connection. It has an emotional intention and entanglement. And that is just as important, right? It doesn't have to make sense logically to you why you feel this way, but you just do. And why your body is associating these two things together. This understanding piece is coming in and being like, all right, like, let's start figuring out where these associations are, what channels have been linked together that maybe we can invite to do in the next letter, which is C, is change the channel, change the story, right? Like, okay, so I'm associating the gym with this person that I haven't spoken to in like 4 years. Interesting. Would I like to change the channel about that? I can either sit with like, maybe there's a guide that's really helpful for me. And I'm like, okay, what if I want to associate the gym with, this guide? Or I have this amazing friend that is really into fitness and nutrition, and I don't know, like his whole being just lights up every time he talks about it. And when I was telling him about kind of my insecurities about the gym, he was like, well, a lot of people get a gym membership and they think, okay, once I've got this, I have to go every day. And if I don't go every day, then I'm somehow a failure. And they sort of already set themselves up for it to not be a great experience. It was, what if you get a gym membership and you just imagine, okay, I'm going to go 1 day a week. I'm just going to go 1 day a week. It was like, what's interesting is you'll likely want to go more if you tell yourself it's okay if you go less, if that makes sense. Total channel change, right? Like my perfectionist, beating myself up for not looking like I did when I was 18, to the relationship, like inner meshing with that other person. Now all of a sudden I have a new channel that's coming in. And oftentimes this is why things like coaching is so helpful, or having someone that you can bounce your ideas off of, because sometimes we don't even know that another channel option exists until you're vulnerable enough to say yeah, I've done this data, I've figured out these things, I've checked in, somatically with my body, and I'm feeling resistance about going to the gym. And then this other person, he let me know this beautiful other way of looking at it. And I was like, yeah, okay. What if I did imagine, and what if I did believe that I was worthy enough of spending money on myself to go to the gym? It's another interesting thing, right? And we kind of can go back through the methods again. So now that this channel has changed, is like coming up, okay, he's saying, what if I just go 1 day a week? And I'm like, okay, my next follow-up thing might be, how do I feel about spending money like that? All of a sudden the next starts to feel a thing again. And in this moment, that's when a lot of people shut down. We're like, oh, okay, well, this is why I'm not going to go to the gym. This is why I'm not going to do whatever, because it feels too uncomfortable. No, baby, you are amazing. You are powerful. You are resilient. This is where we start to build those muscles. Go back to the beginning part of the stuck method again. Okay, I'm feeling another sensation. Okay, let me breathe with it. Let's make it neutral. Let's be curious. How fascinating that when I started talking about money, I felt a lot of constriction around my my throat and the sides of my neck. Interesting. It sounds like stories about money are stored around my voice and around my neck. Fascinating. Oh, okay. So I put my hand there in solidarity. I say, okay. Going to T, translating. All right, like, oh, this tension, that's so interesting. I'm noticing that came up around money. Okay, like, so there's some money stories that are living in my neck. Thank you, body, for storing that and for reminding me of that. This is so helpful. Okay, cool. Do a little scan. Okay, do I feel it in my head? Nope, my head isn't actually feeling anything about money. It's all in my throat. Okay. All right. Oh, and it's also going down the back of my spine. Okay. So now I go to the understanding where this comes from, right? Like, oh, okay. Like spine is honor and dignity, like sitting up and holding your head up high and all those things. I'm like, okay, like there's some worthiness conversations going on. Interesting. I can, I could go down a whole other rabbit hole about that, but I will not. But you understand sort of the thing. And then I get back to the like change that channel. Okay, right. So maybe I'm worried about spending, like $30, something like that, like a month on myself, with the gym. I wonder though, like maybe when I'm at the gym, I might bump into someone that would be really inspiring for me, or maybe being able to do some workout things, and just being mindful of the fact that my neck is going to be feeling some things. Like, what if I start doing, bench presses or flies or, pull-ups or something like, or dips, that kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, that could actually help move and shift some of this energy around my throat. Wow. I wonder what I could do if my throat and my neck felt a little bit more open. Maybe podcasting would be a little bit easier. Maybe creating content on my social media would feel, less awkward or cringe for me sometimes. Side note, if you have a friend that is trying to build a business online, just know that no matter how confident they show up, they can always use you reminding them that what they're saying or what they're doing or the way that they're trying to bring forward their gifts into the world, it's always helpful, because the level of vulnerability that it truly is to say, I have a product or a service that can help you, it's massive. And oftentimes I think people that are the most confident carry themselves like they don't need that care. But for example, if it's like your livelihood, it can get stuck in these places, kind of like I was just feeling, it can get stuck in your neck and your chest. You can feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders as you're coming to show up, to be brave, to try to do something else, right? To get unstuck. And I really believe that another way of changing that channel is if we start to look out for each other and celebrate each other's wins. Like, be as excited with your friend about the things that they're working on. Ask questions about them. Let them go down some like rabbit trails about their work, because I really deeply believe that we're all here. We're all here with a unique, different, beautiful mission. There's something that just grates the inside of my soul that another person may have never thought of before. And what if I'm constantly waiting for someone else to show up to bring forward the mission that I see matters? It just may never happen, right? So and as you can see, like, this changing the channel can get a little bit, there can be tentacles to it. And like, that's the game, right? As I've been talking about this and I'm like, okay, like going to the gym, if it goes from, oh, I'm spending money on this thing, or people are going to think weird things of me, I'm not going to belong. And if I shift that into this new channel of like, oh, I have this deep rooted belief that I want people to feel connected to their bodies. I want them to heal their relationships with themselves because I believe that you deserve that. And I believe also that people that are within their bodies understand themselves. It's bully resiliency. It is, it can help with so many of the atrocities, abuse, or like neglect, or like just a whole host of horrible, painful things, even war. Like, I truly believe that when we are disembodied, we are able to cause more harm to others because we're numbed out to what that pain is within ourselves. And so it doesn't seem like it matters as much. Like, that's how we dehumanize people. That's how we create an othering experience, right? Is when we're not connected to our bodies. And that could be a whole other podcast. But now, as I'm talking through this, I'm like, okay, if going to the gym can help to make my neck stronger, my core stronger, to be able to like to speak and to emote and to hold myself, and to hold this massive growth that's coming forward from me to invite others into, is $30 worth it if my confidence, my experience of myself elevates in a way where I can unlock more doors for more people within my mission? Hell yeah. So y'all, in changing this channel, I have all of a sudden gone from I'm unworthy, stuck, and I don't belong to going to the gym can be a way of inviting others into belonging, because belonging matters so much to me. Embodiment and belonging and joy. And as I'm saying that, I can all of a sudden feel the tension kind of melting out of my body. My body is like, thank you for going through the whole cycle with me to allow me to say all the things that needed to be said, felt all the things that needed to be felt, and kind of translated. And the K in Stuck method, which is what we're doing, is it's kid level kindness. You want to treat your body in this process the way that you would a beautiful, amazing, bright-eyed, smart little kindergartner, right? Would you say half of the shit you say to yourself to a 5-year-old? Would you be beating it up like, ugh, why don't you know this? Like, you're so annoying. Why can't you just figure your shit out? You would never freaking say that to a kid. I just know if you are listening to something like Change the Channel, you are not someone that speaks that way to children. If you do, then maybe that can be a different conversation we can have. But like, what if we start talking to ourselves as we're learning these new skills, instead of being like, God, I've been so disconnected for so long and I'm a problem and I'm this. The truth of the matter, this is the PhD in my own opinion, we have been born and bred and taught through multiple systems and ways to be good little machines. Like, think about it. You get up, like, from kindergarten to 12th grade, like, you're getting up and at early hours, you're like going, kids are sitting so still in schools and being kind of, taught one thing from one voice, and even writing papers. Like, I still sometimes will have a thought just hit me, and I'm like, oh, but is it even valid if I can't cite an MLA format or APA format that someone else has already thought of my idea before? Like, whoa, that's wild, right? That's so wild. The ways that we've kind of been trained to be able to operate the machine of productivity. And sometimes I think that that machine of productivity is the thing that numbs out our ability to listen to ourselves. And the fact of the matter is, if you want sustainable effort or work towards anything, like your relationships, your job, your finances, your fitness, your maybe fertility, your any of those things, for it to be sustainable, you have to understand that your body can only keep quiet so long, sit still so long before it will start to get louder. And yeah, just like a kid that's been sitting still too long. So we treat ourselves kindly because you have been learning this way of being since you were young. It was probably modeled to you as well. It can be really vulnerable and uncomfortable to actually sit with yourself about what you're feeling, especially if you're feeling something big like grief or sadness or regret or shame. Yeah. So treat yourself kindly, like you would a kid. That's the stuck method. So we've got the sensation, we've got translate it, understand where it comes from, change that channel to something that matches what you're wanting to accomplish. And then K, treat yourself with kindness. And I'm saying all this stuff like, oh yeah, it's so freaking easy. If you've never done this process before, and even if you're listening to this and you go through and you're trying it and it feels murky, it feels sticky, it feels really hard to do, one thing I would suggest is setting a timer when you're sitting with the sensations, and do it for a minute. Then the understanding, free write in your journal, if journaling is the thing that works for you, or do a voice note to yourself and just free ad lib talk about it for like, I don't know, maybe like 2 minutes. Try these in small increments. And if you're also prompted where you're like, wow, this feels important and I don't even know where to start, that's what I'm here for. You can definitely get in contact with me. I will put a link in the bio, and let's have a conversation, connect and see what your goals are, what your desires are, what channels you want to change, what part of this method feels the most sticky for you, right? Because yeah, I can't get enough of helping people with this stuff or being with people in this stuff, like, because it's so freaking transformational. Like, watching my clients, after going through some of this stuff, like fly all the way across the world to reconnect with someone that they loved, to see whether there was still a match, so that it wasn't just floating around in their mind. Like, it was massive. Like, witnessing her go from frozen to literally flying across the globe is huge, right? For me, a lot of why this is such a big deal to me is because I went through a series of several years that were so profoundly traumatic. It was like, it felt like cosmic dodgeball, and to the point where I would have a panic attack almost every day at work. The lights, the sensations, the people, I had zero, my nervous system was fried. And so I didn't have bandwidth for literally anything that was coming in at me. And so I would go to the bathroom and I would have these panic attacks. And I worked with a therapist and like this counselor, and he just had this amazing embodied way and approach of being. And we would sit in the discomfort together for a little bit longer each time than I felt like I was capable of doing. And slowly but surely, all of like the agitation, the years of ignoring, sorry, I was getting passionate about that. I need some water. The years of stuck, messy, painful, oftentimes wrong stories, the shame, all of it, like I needed someone to be with me while I essentially drained the pool there was all of this that was making me walk through the world sludgy and shrinking and afraid and settling for things that were less than what I deserved, and allowing people to talk to me and treat me in ways that were so unkind and damaging. Like, and the thing of it is when you're that numb, when you're that disconnected, you don't even feel the impact of it. It's almost like if if your leg has gone to sleep or something, like, and no, that's probably not the best analogy. Like maybe it's what's when your hands get like really, 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 really cold. You're gonna hit them on things you don't necessarily feel it until the blood comes back through, the circulation comes through, and then you see a bunch of wounds around it. And so, this numbing, this turning things down, is oftentimes allowing us to stay in situations that are harmful and harming us. And a lot of times we can even be doing efforts, things to help make it better. But if we're staying in the same situation where there's so much harm and we're doing a lot of, things to try to help mitigate it and fix it and whatever, we're not actually getting ahead. We're just barely kind of floating by. And that's another reason why we can often feel stuck, because we're doing all these interventions, but we're not actually connecting with our bodies. And so our bodies are still numb, therefore we're staying in it too long. The other thing that I want to point out too is, so there's this amazing system called human design. And human design is, you basically take your time of birth, you take where you were born, and you plug it into the system, and it will show you this amazing blueprint of who you are and how you were designed. Basically, your avatar of body on planet Earth is designed to operate in its most aligned, expansive space, and what it will feel like and be like and do if you're not living in alignment. And basically, one thing I was learning about it is so many times we're taught that, like, think about it. Imagine using, use your mind to come up with your solutions of what's going to work for you. And as I've been learning human design, it's really cool because it comes from a body standpoint. And actually, the majority of the population is not meant to make decisions based on what's happening with your head. You might have what's called a sacral authority. A sacral authority is this kind of like a low belly, like below the belly button sort of feeling. And you can actually, when you're tapped into it, ask yourself yes or no questions, and you can get the feeling of like, or or you'll get this like buzzing sensation, or your body will talk to you in whatever way it does. But if that's your authority, if you think about it, if you're designed to hear through that kind of nudging, that like, okay, I'm supposed to, like, if I say yes to this will be really aligned. If I don't, I'm going to be spinning my wheels and frustrated. Can you imagine if you literally have not spent any time with, your low belly at all, developing a trusting relationship with that space? Like, how hard will it be to hear those things? And so that, a lot of times, I believe, is why people overcommit themselves, or they're running around, they're saying yes to everything because they don't actually know what their true yes is. Another large population of, of the planet are solar plexus authority in human design. And that is like where you have it, your emotional compass, and you feel an emotion and you allow it to ride the waves of that whole emotion. And generally you'll feel whether something is for you or not after a day of riding the emotion. Or, depending on how big the thing is, but yeah, like you need at least a day to be able to go through the whole cycle. Can you imagine if you've shut down your embodied ability to be with a feeling past the point of the initial discomfort? You won't be able to ride the whole wave, to be able to feel a true, like, just deep satisfaction or peace or, like joy or, any of those things about your decisions, because we're cutting off at the surface our true body wisdom, right? Like, we're not meant to be just walking around machines thinking with just our head. Our bodies are also connected and along for the ride. And if you're also really interested in human design, or if you're like, wait a minute, I thought that I was supposed to be making decisions from thinking, or whoa, I really relate to saying yes to so many things and then getting into them and being like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? Like, yeah, all of that, right? All of that makes so much sense, and we can unpack it. We can unpack it together. We can, we can move through the process, and yeah, you don't have to feel stuck. And you can also learn what your unique way is to listen to your body through tools like human design, which is super, super helpful if you're starting out and you're like, I don't even know how to listen to my body. We can pull your chart and be like, okay, step one, we're going to get less twitchy, I guess, about sensations. Your body's meant to have them. Step two, let's start playing with what your authority is in human design and see if you can start listening and hearing from that standpoint and see what else comes up for you. So yeah, I love these things. And you're worthy of these things. You're worthy of having channels change that are not working for you. And you're worthy to know what your body's saying, because relationships can shift and change in all sorts of ways, but the relationship with yourself is the one that you've been gifted to be with as your biggest learning tool, learning ally, because your body never goes anywhere that you yourself don't go. So you're always with yourself. You may as well learn to be kind and to understand how to listen to yourself. Okay. Yeah, that was beautiful. I'm feeling so much gratitude and warmth just come all over my body. Speaking about this stuff out loud and imagining even right now, as we're entering into Libra eclipse season, we are getting to reframe and shift around our thoughts about relationships, but it's not just relationships as far as like romantic or lovers. You can start to harness the beautiful powers at be that are happening even cosmically right now to begin to reframe and reshape your relationship with your body. How cool is that? How cool to imagine that there are forces that are happening, out in the solar system that could actually be helping you to align with your goals around this. I love to imagine that there's so many forces that are conspiring for my benefit. And yeah, it's true. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for desiring to listen to yourself. This has been another episode of Change the Channel podcast. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and also connect with me. I'll put my Instagram in the show notes. Let me know if this is resonating for you, because I love to do podcasts about things that people are sharing. So yeah, you can either leave a comment, you can connect with me on Instagram, and yeah, just go ahead and hit the follow button so that you will be alerted the next time I go on a ranty rant to talk about your amazing body or channels that we're changing. Also, thank you so much for any and all of you that have rated the podcast. I'm so grateful for those stars that you're offering. It's allowing this podcast to expand its reach, and literally that we have a global presence. There's people all over the world, which is wild to me, that is listening to this. And if you are out there in any of the far reaches of the globe, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for rating the podcast and for being here. This, my dears, was another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Go forward, be brave, be kind, and change those channels that are no longer serving you. Let's talk soon.